I was about to lose everything in divorce court until my 10-year-old looked straight at the judge and said, "Your Honor, may I show you something Dad doesn't know?" And when the judge nodded and the video began, the entire courtroom went silent, and there I was, sitting in a courthouse on a Tuesday morning, watching my marriage get taken apart piece by piece like a rotisserie chicken at a buffet, thinking how unreal it all felt because I'm 38, married to Heather, 36, for 16 years, one kid, a solid job as an operations supervisor at a manufacturing plant, a house in a decent neighborhood. The whole picture I thought meant stability until about 3 hours earlier, when I realized I'd been nothing more than the funding source while she was already shopping for my replacement. And in the courtroom, Heather's lawyer, a woman in a power suit that probably cost more than my truck, was calmly laying out their temporary orders request like she was reading off a shopping list. Primary custody, exclusive use of the house, temporary support of $4,200 a month, attorney's fees, and a list of restrictions that made it obvious this wasn't about fairness but about control. And what hit me hardest wasn't even that. It was Heather herself. Because she wasn't crying or conflicted or torn. She was checking her phone under a folder, whispering to her lawyer during my testimony, sliding sticky notes back and forth. And when her lawyer landed a point about my work hours, Heather's foot stopped tapping and she smiled. Not a sad smile or a guilty one, but relief, while our daughter Maya sat in the gallery between us, 10 years old, clutching the beat-up stuffed giraffe she's had since she was 3, already handed a tissue by the bailiff during opening statements, and I still couldn't understand why Heather had insisted she be there at all. What kind of mom makes their kid sit through something like this? And during the first recess, I caught Heather near the vending machines. Kept my voice even and firm, asked her what this was really about. Reminded her that just last month we were planning Maya's birthday trip and now she was trying to paint me as an absent father. And her jaw tightened as she said some things can't be explained and that I'd understand when it was finished, before her lawyer appeared and pulled her away, leaving me standing there watching them walk off and feeling more certain than ever that something bigger was going on under the surface. And back in the courtroom, I noticed Maya watching her mother with a look that felt far too serious for a 10-year-old. And when Heather caught her staring, Maya quickly looked down at her giraffe. But something about her expression made my stomach knot because she looked worried about something bigger than the divorce. While Heather's lawyer kept building the case, emotional unavailability, absent father, workaholic who chose career over family, and it became clear they weren't asking for custody so much as they were asking for control, and Maya kept looking back and forth between us like she was carrying something heavy no child should have to carry. And I had no idea my kid was about to turn a custody hearing into a crime scene. Because as I sat there listening to Heather's lawyer turn me into the villain, my mind replayed the past year. 8 months back when Heather grew distant, hushed phone calls, separate bedrooms, and the strangest part was how she started acting with Maya. Whispered conversations that stopped when I walked in, and one night while helping with homework Maya looked up and asked how you know when someone's lying, and when I asked why she shrugged and said sometimes people say things but do different things. And sitting in that courtroom it finally hit me that I'd seen all the signs, I just hadn't connected them. And when I glanced at Maya, she sat perfectly still with the giraffe in her lap, eyes alert, giving me a small, sad smile that hit me right in the gut before she reached into her backpack and pulled out the tablet Heather bought her 6 months ago for educational games, holding it like it might explode as she looked from the tablet to me, then to Heather, then back again, whispering that she needed to tell someone something really important, that she had something that showed what was really going on, what her mom was really doing. And before I could ask what she meant, Heather's lawyer called Heather to testify, and I watched my wife stand, smooth her dress, and walk to the witness chair like she was about to accept an award, place her hand on the Bible, swear to tell the truth, and begin answering questions about our marriage and my supposed failures as a husband and father. Every word sounding reasonable and sympathetic as she painted herself as a devoted wife who tried everything to save the marriage, a protective mother who finally realized she needed to prioritize Maya's well-being. That's how Heather framed it. Talking about my long hours, frequent overtime, and my supposed inability to emotionally engage, mentioning couples counseling I'd allegedly refused, which was news to me since she'd never asked, and referencing a pattern of financial control that made her feel trapped. Some of it carrying bits of truth that somehow made it sting worse. But as I listened to her testify, I couldn't stop thinking about Maya's words. I have a thing that shows what's really going on. Wondering what a 10-year-old could possibly have that mattered in a divorce case, and why my daughter looked more scared listening to her mother than I did. Because Heather kept talking, spinning our marriage into a tragedy caused entirely by my neglect. while the whole time Maya gripped that tablet like it was a live grenade, glancing between Heather and the judge with fear mixed with determination. And then my phone buzzed with a bank fraud alert. A wire transfer initiated from our joint savings account for $12,000. And I just stared at the screen as my heart rate spiked, realizing the transfer was happening right now in real time while Heather sat in the witness chair talking about my financial control issues. So I screenshot the alert, checked the timestamp at 10:47 a.m., leaned over and showed my lawyer, whose eyebrows shot up as he immediately started typing on his laptop and pulling up our joint account online, while Heather kept testifying, still playing the victim, literally stealing from our joint account as she spoke, and I stepped into the hallway, called the fraud line, got a case number, confirmed the transfer was still pending and wouldn't clear until end of business, and when I came back my lawyer noted it, pending transfer, still reversible, and then my 10-year-old daughter stood up, the courtroom going silent as every head turned and Maya raised her hand and said in a clear, steady voice, "Your Honor, I need to show you something that Dad doesn't even know about." And the judge, a woman who looked like she'd seen every kind of family court nightmare, raised her eyebrows and asked what she needed to show her. While Heather went pale like all the blood drained from her face and her lawyer jumped up calling it inappropriate because the child hadn't been called as a witness, only to be shut down as the judge told her to sit down and said if the child had relevant information she was going to hear it, inviting Maya forward and asking her name. And my daughter walked up with more courage than most adults ever show, saying she was 10, that she lived with her mom and dad, that her mom wanted to take her away from Dad and that it wasn't fair because Dad didn't do the bad things Mom said he did, really didn't, as Heather gripped the witness chair so hard her knuckles turned white. And when the judge asked what she had, Maya explained it was her tablet, given for games and learning, that she'd figured out how to make videos too, her voice steady even as her hands trembled, explaining she made diary-like videos because she felt confused and sometimes left it recording when her mom talked on the phone because she sounded weird, like a different voice, prompting the judge to lean forward and carefully ask whether anyone had told her to record the conversations or edit them. To which Maya said no, she just wanted to understand, and the judge nodded, explaining she would review the evidence in chambers with a court-appointed child advocate because it involved a minor, instructing the court reporter to note that at 11:03 a.m. the minor child presented electronic evidence for preliminary review, calling a recess for a chambers conference, reassuring Maya she wasn't in trouble and asking her to wait with the bailiff, then directing both lawyers to attend and calling in a guardian ad litem, announcing a 20-minute recess as Heather clutched her lawyer's arm whispering frantically. The court reporter packed up. Maya walked beside the bailiff still holding the tablet, and I caught up to my lawyer outside chambers. "What just happened?" I asked, and my lawyer told me the judge was being smart, that if she let a kid testify without proper procedure Heather's lawyer would argue it was coerced or improperly obtained. But this way everything would be documented and above board. Then he paused and said whatever was on that tablet better be good because we were about to find out. And inside chambers the atmosphere shifted, less formal but more tense, with the guardian ad litem arriving within 10 minutes, a woman in her 50s carrying a notepad and wearing the tired expression of someone who had seen far too many custody battles. As the judge looked at Maya sitting in a chair too big for her, still holding her giraffe, and asked gently whether anyone had told her to make the recordings or bring them to court. To which Maya shook her head and said no, that Dad didn't even know and she just wanted somebody to know the true stuff, prompting the judge to make a note and explain that the guardian ad litem was there as her advocate and that the recordings would be reviewed for relevance and authenticity. Then inviting Maya to show what she had, and Maya tapped the screen and explained that the first video was from when she was trying to make a dance video in her room. Forgot it was recording, went to get a snack, and it picked up her mom on the phone in the hall, turning the tablet toward the judge as audio began to play. Heather's voice coming through the speaker in a way I'd never heard before, cold and calculating, saying she didn't love him anymore, hadn't in years, that he was convenient, a steady paycheck to cover boutique losses while she figured out her exit strategy, that the business was bleeding money and he had no clue how bad it was, and my blood went cold as I wondered who the hell Trevor was and what boutique losses she was talking about, while the recording continued with her saying the best part was how trusting and blind he was, never looking at the books, just transferring money when she asked, that she could probably bring Trevor to the house and he'd rationalize it. And once the divorce went through and she got the house and alimony they could stop hiding, let the boutique collapse. It wasn't her problem anymore. Trevor would get his investment back and they'd be clear. and the judge's expression stayed neutral as she made notes and then asked Heather if she recognized the voice. Heather's face flushing from pale to red as she claimed it was taken out of context and a private conversation, only for the judge to press for a yes or no, which Heather finally gave. And when the judge asked Maya if there was more, Maya nodded and said she had another video and pictures of texts and stuff about the doorbell camera. And the judge asked to see the video first, which showed Heather in our kitchen with a man I'd never seen before, kissing him in a way that was comfortable and practiced. The timestamp reading 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon in April with metadata visible, prompting the judge to pause it and note the timestamp for the record, then ask Maya if she knew who the man was, to which she replied no, but that his car, a black BMW with a dent in the front, was at the house a lot when Dad was at work, explaining she knew because of the doorbell camera that went offline every time the BMW showed up, leading the judge to ask me if we had a doorbell camera system, and when I confirmed it was a Ring and I'd assumed the outages were Wi-Fi issues, she said she would subpoena the access logs, then turning back to Maya about the text messages as Maya swiped to another folder of screenshots. The judge leaning forward as her expression hardened and noting they appeared to be communications between Heather and someone named Trevor discussing financial matters and divorce strategy, telling Heather's lawyer she would mark them as preliminary exhibits and continue the hearing, but that she needed to address something that came up during Heather's testimony, then looking to my lawyer as he stood and explained that while Mrs. Heather was testifying about alleged financial control, a wire transfer of $12,000 had been initiated from the joint savings account, showing the fraud alert timestamped at 10:47 a.m. that morning and noting the transfer was still pending. The judge's expression turning arctic as she asked to see it, reviewed the laptop and my phone screenshot with the fraud case number, then looked at Heather and asked if she had initiated the transfer, cutting off her lawyer and demanding Heather answer herself, Heather whispering that she was moving money to a separate account for protection. Given the circumstances, you initiated an unauthorized transfer of marital funds while sitting in my courtroom testifying about your husband's financial control. The judge's voice could have frozen water. Counselor, I'm issuing an immediate freeze on all joint accounts. I'm also ordering the bank to reverse that transfer. Bailiff, please ensure Mrs. Heather surrenders all debit and credit cards linked to joint accounts before leaving this courthouse. She looked at Maya with something close to sympathy. Young lady, you've been very brave today. What you did took courage. But I need you to promise me something. No more recording. That's not your job. The adults are going to handle this now. Can you promise me that? Maya nodded, tears starting to stream down her face now. Yes. I just wanted to help. Dad, you did help. You did exactly the right thing. The guardian admiral privately. The guardian ad litem took Maya out to the waiting area. As soon as the door closed, the judge turned to both lawyers. Here's what's going to happen, counselor. She looked at Heather's lawyer. Your client has presented false testimony, initiated financial fraud during court proceedings, and these recordings suggest a pattern of deception and financial misconduct. I'm dismissing the temporary orders request for exclusive use and support pending a full evidentiary hearing. She looked at my lawyer. Counselor, I assume you'll be filing counterclaims? Yes, Your Honor, emergency custody motion, financial fraud claims, and a request for forensic accounting of Mrs. Heather's business records. File them by tomorrow morning. I'm scheduling an expedited evidentiary hearing for next Tuesday at 9 a.m. In the meantime, I'm granting Mr. Eric temporary emergency custody of Maya with Mrs. Heather to have supervised visitation only at an approved facility. She paused, and Mrs. Heather, I'm ordering you to produce all financial records related to your boutique business within 72 hours. If you fail to comply, I will issue a bench warrant. Heather's face twisted with something between rage and panic. This is insane. You're taking my daughter based on recordings that could be fake, could be edited. Mrs. Heather, those recordings have metadata. The bank transfer is real. Your own testimony contradicts the evidence. And your daughter, your own child, felt the need to document your behavior because she didn't trust you. That tells me everything I need to know. The judge stood. We're done here. Court will reconvene on Tuesday. As we filed out, Heather turned to Maya with pure rage. You have no idea what you've done. You've destroyed everything. Do you understand that? Everything? The guardian immediately stepped between them. The judge's voice cut through the room. Mrs. Heather, that's enough. Bailiff, please escort Mrs. Heather from the courthouse. And Mrs. Heather, if you make any further contact with your daughter outside of court-approved supervised visitation, you will be held in contempt and face potential criminal charges. As Heather was led away, still glaring at Maya, I knelt down to my daughter's level. "You okay?" She nodded, but tears were streaming down her face now. "I didn't want to make Mom so mad. I just wanted to help you." "You did help. You did exactly the right thing." The guardian ad litem put a hand on my shoulder. "I'll be conducting a full evaluation over the next week. I'll need to interview Maya, review the evidence, and make recommendations to the court. But for now, she goes home with you." For the first time since this nightmare started, I felt like I might actually survive it. My lawyer had his legal pad covered in notes when I arrived at his office. Walk me through the boutique finances, every transfer, every amount. I pulled up my banking app. $2,000 to $3,000 a month for the past 2 years. About $72,000 total. I trusted her to manage it since she had the business degree. That Trevor guy from the recording owns Premier Supply Company, multiple LLCs, history of billing disputes. He leaned forward. "If your wife's business is failing and she's using your money to prop it up while running a kickback scheme with her supplier, that's fraud on multiple levels. I need every bank statement, every check, every transfer you've got. I keep digital copies of everything." "Good. I'm bringing in a forensic accountant. If they're running 2 sets of books like I think they are, we'll find it." When court reconvened the following Tuesday, the atmosphere had completely shifted. Heather sat with a different lawyer. Her original attorney had withdrawn over the weekend, citing irreconcilable differences. The new guy looked overwhelmed and underprepared. The judge came in looking like she'd spent the week reading something that really made her angry. "Mrs. Heather," the judge began, "I've reviewed the financial records you produced, or rather the incomplete financial records you produced. You failed to provide business bank statements for the past 6 months, vendor invoices for the past year, and your business credit card statements." She paused. "Would you care to explain that omission?" Heather's new lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client is still gathering. Your client had 72 hours in a court order. That's not still gathering. That's non-compliance." The judge pulled up something on her computer. "I've also been in contact with the state controller's office regarding the business registration for your boutique. Would you care to explain why your registered business shows minimal retail transactions but significant vendor payments to Premier Supply Company?" Heather's face went white. "Furthermore, preliminary records show business losses exceeding $180,000 over the past 2 years, while joint account records show regular transfers from your husband totaling approximately $72,000 to business accounts. The controller's office has also flagged discrepancies between your reported sales revenue and your point-of-sale system transactions." My brain was catching up. Heather wasn't just cheating. She was running some kind of scheme with Trevor, using my money to fund it and planning to divorce me before I discovered the losses. My lawyer stood. "Your Honor, based on these findings, we're filing amended counterclaims that include fraudulent dissipation of marital assets, perjury, and a motion to hold Mrs. Heather financially liable for all losses related to her business activities. We're also requesting the court appoint a guardian ad litem, which has already been done, and requesting a full forensic audit of the business accounts." Heather's lawyer looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. "Your Honor, these are serious accusations. We need time to review, Counselor. Your client has been using marital funds to finance a failing business and an extramarital affair, then attempting to portray her husband as neglectful to secure alimony. She filed a fraudulent emergency motion, initiated an unauthorized wire transfer during court proceedings, and verbally attacked her own child for exposing the truth. The time for review has passed." The judge looked at Heather with barely concealed disgust. "Mrs. Heather, I'm granting Mr. Eric temporary emergency custody of Maya effective immediately. You will be allowed supervised visitation only, pending the guardian ad litem's full evaluation and recommendations." Heather jumped up. "You can't take my daughter. This is insane. He's a workaholic who's never home. He doesn't know the first thing about taking care of her alone. And yet," the judge said coldly, "your own daughter felt safer documenting your behavior than trusting you. That tells me everything I need to know about your parenting." The judge continued. "I'm also dismissing your claims for alimony and your motion for exclusive use of the home. The evidence shows your marriage difficulties were caused by your own adultery and financial fraud. You cannot benefit from your own deception regarding the house. Mr. Eric has been the sole mortgage payer and his income has been fraudulently diverted. I'm awarding him temporary possession of the marital home. Mrs. Heather, you have 30 days to remove your belongings under supervised conditions." Heather's face went from white to red. "You're seriously going to destroy my life over this? I did what I had to do. He was never going to give me what I deserved. I built that business from nothing. You built it with your husband's money. The judge interrupted. And you destroyed it with fraud. We're done here. Heather turned to Maya, who sat quietly in the gallery with the guardian ad litem. Her voice dropped to something cold and sharp. I hope you're proud of yourself. You just picked his side. Don't expect me to forget that. That's when I stood up. Your Honor, I request Mrs. Heather's visitation be limited to professional supervised settings only. A mother who threatens a child for telling the truth shouldn't have unsupervised access. The judge nodded. Granted, supervised visitation only at an approved facility with a licensed supervisor. 2 hours per week pending further evaluation. And Mrs. Heather, if you make any further threatening statements to your daughter, I will terminate your visitation entirely. As Heather was let out by her clearly exhausted lawyer, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Not anger, not vindication, clarity. I'd spent 16 years maintaining stability and building something solid. That wasn't weakness. That was exactly what protected Maya when everything else fell apart. Maya slipped her hand into mine. Dad, are we going to be okay? I looked down at my daughter. This brave kid who'd done what needed to be done. Yes, sweetheart, we're going to be better than okay. 2 days later, Maya's school called. Heather had shown up at the front office requesting to be added back to the emergency contact list and demanding pickup authorization. Mrs. Heather became very agitated when we explained we couldn't make changes without both parents' approval. The principal said she claimed you were manipulating the school system and keeping her from her daughter. We had to ask her to leave. She threatened to handle this another way, which concerned our staff. I forwarded the custody order to the school immediately. Emergency contact stayed as is. Heather's pickup authorization was revoked. The principal added a note to Maya's file. Do not release student to Heather under any circumstances. I also gave them the guardian adlet's contact information. That same afternoon I got served at work in front of my entire crew. Process server walked onto the manufacturing floor during shift, asked for me by name, and handed me papers in front of 20 guys. I opened the envelope. Emergency restraining order request. Heather was claiming I'd made threats, that she feared for her safety, that I was preventing her from seeing Maya. Every single claim was a lie. But standing there on the floor with everyone watching me read legal papers, I looked like the bad guy. My foreman approached after the server left. Eric, you need to go handle this. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow. I drove straight to my lawyer's office, showed him the restraining order request. He read it, shook his head. This is garbage, pure retaliation. She's hoping to make you look dangerous and unstable. We'll fight it. And when the judge sees the pattern, Heather's going to regret this. He started making notes. The good news is this is probably going to backfire spectacularly. The restraining order hearing was set for 5 days later. Meanwhile, I started documenting everything, bought a composition notebook, the kind where you can tell if pages are removed, started logging every incident, date, time, what happened, who was present. The school incident went on page 1 with the principal's name and call-back number. The courthouse service went on page 2 with my foreman as a witness. I also changed every password I had, bank accounts, email, credit cards, streaming services, everything, set up fraud alerts on all my credit, called the 3 credit bureaus and put a freeze on my credit file. If Heather had already opened cards in my name, at least she couldn't open more. Then I pulled up the doorbell camera logs, went back 6 months, found 18 instances where the camera went offline for 30 to 90 minutes during business hours. 18 times I'd been at work and never questioned it. I documented every instance with timestamps, some lined up with Maya screenshots of text messages. I wasn't just angry anymore, I was precise. The hearing lasted about 15 minutes. Heather showed up without evidence. No threatening texts, no voicemails, no witnesses, just her word. My lawyer presented the court recording of Heather's outburst and the timeline of the wire transfer attempt, plus documentation of the school incident. The judge, a different one this time, but clearly briefed, looked at Heather with obvious skepticism. Mrs. Heather, you initiated financial fraud during court proceedings, made threatening statements to your daughter, and now you're claiming your husband is dangerous. She shook her head, denied. And I'm sanctioning you for filing a frivolous motion. You'll pay Mr. Eric's attorney fees for today's hearing. Heather walked out of that hearing looking like someone had slapped her. But I knew this wasn't over. The forensic accountant my lawyer hired tore through Heather's business records like a shark through bait. When he presented his findings a week later, even my lawyer looked shaken. Your wife's been running 2 sets of books. She literally named 1 real numbers. He pulled up a comparison chart. The boutique's reported annual revenue $180,000, actual revenue $60,000. The difference was inflated vendor invoices from Trevor's supply company. She'd order inventory worth $2,000. Trevor would invoice for $6,000. She'd pay with your transfers. They'd split the difference. 2 solid years of it. My lawyer jumped in. The DA's office is interested. Trevor's company had other billing complaints on file. The accountant continued, the boutique's lease is 3 months in default. $40,000 in unpaid vendor bills. Business account $8,000 in the red, and she's been floating it with credit cards in your name. That stopped me cold. What? 3 credit cards using your information maxed out? Total balance around $35,000. Identity theft. On top of everything else, Heather had stolen my identity to finance her failing fraud scheme. My lawyer made more notes. We're filing a police report today. Identity theft, credit card fraud, the works. Between that and the DA's investigation, Heather's looking at serious criminal charges on top of the civil case. How serious? Felony level. If the DA gets a conviction on the fraud charges, she's looking at 3 to 7 years. Maybe more if they stack charges. First supervised visitation turned into a disaster. Heather spent 45 minutes guilt-tripping Maya about ruining the family and asking why she betrayed her mother. The licensed supervisor ended it at 30 minutes and filed a report recommending reduced contact. The Guardian de Dam's report to the court was damning. Maya presents as a well-adjusted child who has been inappropriately parentified by her mother. She expresses fear of her mother's anger and anxiety about potential unsupervised contact. She demonstrates a healthy bond with her father and stable school performance. Recommendation: primary custody to father with supervised visitation for mother pending completion of parenting classes and individual therapy. Heather tried one more stunt. During the second supervised visit 2 weeks later, she slipped Maya a phone, a burner smartphone. So we can talk privately without Dad controlling everything. The supervisor caught it within 5 minutes. My lawyer filed an emergency motion. The judge suspended all contact for 6 months and ordered Heather to complete a parenting evaluation before any visitation could resume. When Heather stood up in court screaming about it being unconstitutional and how she had rights, 2 deputies moved in. She shoved one of them, trying to get to the gallery where Maya sat. Assault on a peace officer. Contempt of court. She spent 2 days in county lockup before someone posted her bail. The DA filed charges. 3 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of identity theft, filing a false police report and assault on a peace officer. 8 counts total. Trevor got hit with similar fraud charges. He cooperated with investigators pretty quickly, gave up everything in exchange for a reduced sentence. Turned out he'd run this exact scheme with 2 other women before Heather. The divorce moved forward on a separate track. Heather's second lawyer withdrew after the criminal charges dropped. She tried representing herself, which went about as well as you'd expect. She filed a motion arguing, "My financial snooping was invasion of privacy." The judge actually laughed and said, "Checking. Your own joint bank account isn't snooping, it's responsible financial management." She filed another motion claiming the doorbell camera recordings were illegal surveillance. The judge pointed out it was my camera on my property recording common areas. Denied. She tried to argue Mia's videos should be excluded as fruit of the poisonous tree. The judge reminded her that there was no poisonous tree. Maya wasn't a government agent and made the recordings on her own volition. Every motion got denied. Every argument got shut down. 6 months after the initial hearing, the divorce finalized. I got primary custody, the house, everything. Heather forfeited all claims to alimony and property. Court ordered restitution of $82,000 plus my legal fees. About $28,000, total judgment, $110,000. She declared bankruptcy the next week. But the fraud-based restitution wasn't dischargeable. It had followed her forever. Heather took a plea deal on the criminal charges. Sentenced to 3 years, 5 years. Probation after release, permanent felony record. Her lawyer immediately filed an appeal of the sentence and she was released on appeal bond pending the outcome. Trevor got 7 years because of his prior pattern. The wage garnishment would follow her for life. Her business license got revoked, barred from operating anything similar for 10 years. The boutique space sat empty for about 2 months before a coffee shop took over the lease. Premier Supply Company dissolved after Trevor's conviction. Turns out he'd been running the same scam across 3 states with different business partners. But here's the thing nobody tells you about nuclear revenge. Winning doesn't make you whole, it just stops the bleeding. Maya had nightmares for the first few months, nothing dramatic. But she'd wake up worried. We dealt with it. New locks, proper security system, therapy for both of us. I renegotiated my schedule, 2 days remote. Home for dinner and breakfast every day. Maya joined soccer. I showed up to everything. Her coach said she'd finally come out of her shell. 10 months after everything finalized. I thought we were through the worst of it. Maya was thriving, work was stable. The house felt like ours. Then Heather showed up at Maya's soccer game uninvited. It was a Saturday in May, perfect spring day. Mia's soccer team was playing in the finals of their league championship. I was sitting in the bleachers with the other parents, watching Mia defend the goal like she was born to do it. When I saw Heather walk across the parking lot, she looked different. Thinner hair dyed darker, wearing clothes I didn't recognize. But it was definitely her, and she was heading straight for the field. She was out on appeal bond pending her sentencing appeal. Apparently, she'd decided showing up at Mia's game was a good idea, despite the court order explicitly forbidding contact. My first instinct was to intercept her before Mia saw her, but I was too late. Mia spotted her mother during a water break and froze, just stood there holding her water bottle, staring. Heather walked right up to the fence. Didn't go through the check-in table where all parents were supposed to sign in. Didn't ask permission. Just showed up like she had every right to be there. Maya, she called out loud enough that half the parents turned to look. Sweetheart, it's Mommy. Maya didn't move, just kept staring with this blank expression that broke my heart. One of her teammates put a hand on her shoulder. I climbed down from the bleachers fast. By the time I reached the fence, Heather was reaching for the gate latch. Heather, you need to leave. You're violating the court order. She turned to me with this smile that didn't reach her eyes. I'm just here to watch my daughter's game. That's not a crime. Actually, it is. The order says no contact, no observation, no presence at her activities. This is all 3. You need to leave now. Her smile twisted into something uglier. Always so rigid. Always. Hiding behind your little rules. I'm her mother. I have every right to be here. Other parents were watching now. A few looked uncomfortable. Most looked confused. Maya's coach jogged over, clearly trying to figure out what was happening. Is everything okay here? The coach asked. No, I said, keeping my voice level. This woman is violating a court order. I'm calling the police. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Gave them the address. Explained there was a violation of a no-contact order in progress at a youth sporting event. Heather saw me on the phone and raised her voice, playing to the crowd. This man took my daughter away from me. Used lies and manipulation to turn everyone against me. And now he won't even let me watch her play soccer. One of the moms I'd talked to before, whose daughter was on Maya's team, stepped forward. You need to leave now. Heather turned on her. You don't know anything about our family. Your daughter looks terrified. Look at her. Heather looked. Maya stood in the middle of the field, frozen. While her teammates formed a protective circle around her, her face showed no emotion, just blank shock. 2 patrol cars pulled into the parking lot within 5 minutes. Officers got out and walked toward us. I recognized one of them from a previous incident. I pulled up the court order on my phone and showed it to them. The female officer read it, then looked at Heather. You're prohibited from any contact with your daughter, including attending her activities. You need to leave now or you'll be arrested. Heather's composure cracked. I'm her mother. I have rights. Leave voluntarily or we'll place you under arrest. Heather looked around at everyone watching, at Maya on the field, at the officers moving in, at other parents filming on their phones. For a second, I thought she might actually leave. Instead, she tried to rush the gate. She shoved past the female officer. Got the gate open about 6 in before the male officer grabbed her arm. She tried to pull away, started yelling, Maya, baby, Mommy's here. Don't let them do this. Tell them you want to see me. Maya didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there with that blank expression while her teammates held her shoulders. The officers got Heather's arms behind her back. She fought them, kicking backward, trying to twist free. It took both officers to get her under control and into handcuffs. Tell them the truth. You're doing this to hurt me. You've always been jealous of my success. The irony of her yelling about success while being arrested at our daughter's soccer game wasn't lost on anyone. It took both officers to get her to the patrol car. She kept screaming the whole way about injustice, about lies, about how everyone was against her, about how I'd pay for this. Maya watched her mother get put in the back of the police car. Her face showed nothing, just blank. The officers took statements. The coach gave one. One of the other moms gave one. 2 other parents who'd witnessed the gate rushing gave statements. I gave mine and showed them the full court order, plus the documentation I'd been keeping. The female officer looked at the notebook I'd been maintaining. This is good, really good. You're going to want to file for an extension on that protective order when it comes up for renewal. I will. After they drove Heather away, the ref asked if we wanted to resume the game or forfeit. Maya's coach looked at me. I looked at Maya. Maya, do you want to keep playing? She nodded slowly. Yeah, I want to finish. Guys, we are so close to hit 3,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 3,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come